The hills of eastern Washington keeps resurfacing. A bottomless pit said to be a pathway to the paranormal.
What if a camera captured something so dark, so impossible, that the world tried to erase it? A pit in the woods that swallowed light, sound, and maybe more, and a man who vanished after revealing its secret. This isn't just another internet myth. This is the story of Mel's Hole, a place so terrifying, so closely guarded, that no one dares speak its name out loud. Stay with us, because what waits inside this hole might be waiting for you. It was the kind of night when most of America had already drifted into sleep. But for those who were still awake, truckers on lonely highways, night shift workers, insomniacs, and seekers of the strange coast-to-coast AM provided a lifeline to the unexplained. That night in 1997, the voice that cut through the radio static didn't belong to a conspiracy theorist or a UFO hunter. It belonged to Mel Waters. His tone was calm, steady, but there was something beneath it, a tension, a quiet desperation. Mel wasn't calling to promote a book or sell a story. He didn't want fame or fortune. He just wanted someone to listen. He spoke of a hole. Not just any hole, but the hole on his property near Ellensburg, Washington. A pit so strange it defied explanation. Mel described lowering spool after spool of fishing line into the darkness. He spoke slowly, carefully, as if trying not to sound crazy. "I've let down more than 15 miles of line," he said, "and I never hit bottom." The radio host paused, unsure how to respond. The audience listened in silence. Mel went on. Locals had known about the hole for generations. They used it as a dumping ground, old appliances, garbage, even animal carcasses. But no matter what they threw in, nothing ever made a sound. No crash, no splash, no echo. Mel's neighbors kept their distance. Dogs wouldn't go near the pit no matter how hard their owners pulled at the leash. Birds avoided flying over it. The air around it felt different, thicker, like the ground itself was holding its breath. "It swallows everything," Mel said. His voice trembled slightly for the first time. The host, trying to make sense of the claim, asked about measurements. Could Mel have misjudged the depth? Could it be an old mine shaft? Mel insisted it was no mine. He'd researched local records. There was no documentation of mining in the area. And anyway, no mine went down that far. The call lasted nearly half an hour. By the end, listeners across North America sat frozen by their radios. The idea of a bottomless pit hidden in the woods, a pit that devoured sound and matter alike, lodged itself in their imaginations. Mel didn't offer explanations. He didn't speculate. He just described what he knew. And somehow that made it even scarier. After the show ended, the calls poured in. People wanted to know more. Reporters tried to track Mel down. Amateur explorers discussed road trips to Washington. The mystery of Mel's Hole had begun. But if Mel thought sharing his story would bring clarity or comfort, he was wrong. Because in the days that followed, the real nightmare began. In the days after Mel's late-night call, the world didn't just listen, they reacted. Radio hosts replayed the segment. Newspapers ran small blurbs about the man with the bottomless pit. On early internet forums, the story spread like wildfire. Everyone wanted to know where was Mel's Hole. Could it really exist? At first, Mel tried to answer the questions. He spoke to a few reporters, shared vague details about the land near Ellensburg, but the more he spoke, the more he felt it, the weight of unseen eyes. Within a week, everything changed. Mel noticed strange tire tracks on the dirt road leading to his property, tracks that weren't there before. He spotted vehicles parked in the distance, unmarked with dark windows. Men he didn't recognize stood quietly along the tree line, watching. They didn't approach. They didn't wave. They just observed. Then came the day when Mel returned home to find the entrance to his land blocked. Yellow tape stretched between makeshift barricades. Men in hazmat suits, clipboards in hand, stood guard. A man who appeared to be in charge told him the area had been sealed off plane crash debris, they said. But there was no wreckage, no smoke, no sign of a crash. Mel demanded answers. The men said nothing. Later that night, a black SUV pulled up near where Mel was staying. A man in a plain suit stepped out. His message was simple: leave. Take the deal, or we'll make things difficult. The deal was generous on paper, $25,000 a year, if Mel agreed to leave the country and stay silent about the hole. But the threat beneath the offer was clear. They spoke of illegal labs, criminal charges, things that could ruin him, things that didn't need to be true, only believed by the right people. Mel hesitated, but deep down he knew he was outmatched. He took the deal. Soon after, he boarded a plane to Australia. No trial, no headlines, just gone. Years passed. Mel became a ghost. The hole faded from headlines, pushed aside by new scandals, new stories. The world moved on. Until 2002. That year, Mel called Coast to Coast AM once again, but the man on the line didn't sound like the one from 5 years before. His voice was thinner, slower, as if he carried a weight no one else could see. He spoke of waking up in places he didn't recognize, scars on his body he couldn't explain, memories that felt half erased. "They took something from me," he whispered. "Or maybe they put something in." And then he spoke of a second hole, this one hidden in the Nevada desert. He said it was guarded even more closely, and that what lay inside made the Washington hole seem harmless. Before the host could press for details, Mel's voice wavered. "I shouldn't have called," he said. "They'll know I called." And the line went dead. Mel was never heard from again. For years, Mel's story lived in the shadows of the internet, buried under other mysteries, conspiracy theories, and forgotten radio broadcasts. But like all great legends, it refused to stay hidden. By 2023, the world had changed. The tools of curiosity had grown sharper. No longer limited to static radio calls or secondhand rumors, a new generation of seekers turned to the digital wilderness, Reddit, TikTok, YouTube, hungry for forgotten truths. It started small. Someone uploaded old clips of Mel's calls, pairing his voice with haunting footage of dark forests and empty fields. The videos, titled things like "The Deepest Hole," "The Government Doesn't Want You to Find," went viral. The internet, always ready for a good mystery, took notice. Soon, Reddit threads mapped out timelines and theories like crime scene investigations. TikTokers challenged followers. "Are you brave enough to find Mel's Hole?" Amateur researchers pored over satellite images of Washington's Manistash Ridge. Then came a post that changed everything. A user by the name DepthWalker33 dropped a grainy satellite photo and a set of GPS coordinates. At first glance, it looked like nothing, just another patch of wilderness. But zooming in revealed something strange, a perfect barren circle where no trees grew, no paths led in or out. A bald spot in the middle of a dense forest. Cross-referenced with Mel's old descriptions, it fit. The location matched. The internet roared to life. People checked property records. They matched up eerily well with Mel's original vague instructions. Adventurers planned trips. Drone pilots charged batteries. The mystery was no longer just a story, it was a mission. But then something odd happened. The satellite images began to blur. What was once clear became hazy, as if someone had gone in and erased the details. Just like that, the digital window closed. For most, that was enough to stop, but not for everyone. A small group of determined explorers, engineers, survivalists, amateur scientists decided they wouldn't just talk about Mel's Hole. They'd find it. They'd document it. They weren't after likes or subscribers. They didn't announce their plans on social media. They packed their gear quietly, high-end drones, LiDAR scanners, thermal sensors. They weren't hunting for ghosts. They were hunting for proof. And so, in the spring of 2023, beneath the cover of towering evergreens and rolling fog, they stepped into the forest, guided by the old stories, the new coordinates, and a question that had haunted the internet for decades. What's at the bottom of Mel's Hole? The group moved carefully through the dense Washington forest, their boots crunching over pine needles and soft earth. The coordinates from DepthWalker33 had led them to a clearing where no trees grew, a perfect circle of barren ground, just as the satellite image had shown. It was quiet there, too quiet. Even in the deep woods, there's usually some sound, birds, insects, the wind in the trees, but in this clearing, there was nothing. no rustling, no bird song, just an oppressive stillness that seemed to press in on all sides. They paused at the edge, taking it in. The ground within the circle looked wrong, like the forest had been erased, leaving only a patch of lifeless dirt. No tracks, no plants, no signs of animals, just emptiness. One of them, a drone operator named Lee, unpacked their equipment. This wasn't a casual adventure. Every piece of gear had been tested twice. The drone was custom-built, reinforced frame 4K low-light camera thermal and infrared sensors, a heavy-duty tether designed to resist tension, heat, and interference. As they assembled the rig, a mist rolled in from the trees, adding to the eerie atmosphere. The team exchanged uneasy glances, but no one spoke their fears aloud. They were here for answers. With a soft hum, the drone's lights flickered to life. The winch system clicked as the line slowly paid out, lowering the drone into the darkness. First a few feet, then deeper and deeper still. Above, the team crowded around the monitor. The feed was clear, sharp, steady images of the hole's interior. The walls appeared smooth, almost polished, as if carved by hands rather than nature. There were no roots breaking through the soil, no cracks or loose stones, just uniform, dark stone that seemed to drink in the light. For the first 100 feet, nothing changed. Just that strange, unnatural smoothness. The temperature reading began to drop. Not gradually, but fast. It fell to levels you'd expect in polar ice fields, not underground in Washington state. The air already still seemed to grow heavier. The radio mics picked up no interference, no hum of wind or water. Just silence. Then, at around 300 feet, the first anomaly appeared, a flicker. A pulse of light from below, soft, faint, like the glow of something breathing in the dark. The team froze, watching as the light pulsed again, rhythmically like a heartbeat. Lee adjusted the camera, trying to pinpoint the source, but there was nothing to see, no object, no reflection. The light seemed to come from nowhere. The drone descended further. At 400 feet, the flicker returned stronger now, casting brief glimmers on the smooth walls. For a moment, it almost looked like the stone itself was alive, shifting subtly like glass beneath a flame. Suddenly, the magnetic sensors spiked. The compass display skewed wildly. The drone drifted off-center as if the space itself was warping. The team worked quickly to stabilize it, and then at 580 feet, the monitor froze. For just a second, something appeared. A shape between the drone and the wall, tall, thin, motionless. No features, no color, just a shadow where no shadow should be. And then black. The feed went dead. The drone was gone. The team stood in stunned silence, the weight of the moment sinking in. This wasn't just a hole. It was something else entirely. Back at their makeshift base camp, the team huddled around their equipment, replaying the footage, frame by frame. The drone was gone, the tether pulled up slack and empty. But the data, at least, had survived. At first, it seemed ordinary. The slow descent, the smooth walls, the unnatural silence. But as they scrubbed through the recording, things began to surface that they hadn't seen in real time. The temperature readings, those alone, defied logic. The drone sensors had recorded a rapid plunge in temperature far beyond what should exist at such shallow depths. It was the kind of cold found beneath Antarctic ice sheets, not a few hundred feet under Washington soil. And then there were the flashes. Flickers of light that came and went, too brief for the eye to catch at normal speed. Slowed down, they appeared rhythmic, pulsing, like the beat of a hidden heart. The glow illuminated the walls just for a split second, but long enough to show a strange, glassy shimmer on the stone's surface. The audio feed, once believed to be pure silence, wasn't silent after all. Enhanced and filtered, it revealed a low hum, almost imperceptible, a vibration beneath the stillness. As the drone had descended deeper, the hum had grown stronger, breaking into short bursts. Some described it as sonar-like. Others thought it sounded eerily like whispers, stretched and distorted beyond recognition. But it was the final frames that truly chilled them. Slowed down to nearly a standstill, the footage revealed a subtle shift in the darkness, a flicker of movement between the camera and the wall. A shape, tall, thin, still. It hadn't moved like a creature hadn't lunged or floated or fled. It had simply been there as if it had always been there waiting. The walls behind it distorted slightly like heat waves rising from pavement, but colder, sharper. And then the feed had gone black. They exported the footage, backed it up on multiple drives, and, driven by both fear and responsibility, shared it online. Not for fame, not for clicks, but because they believed people deserved to see it. The internet reacted as it always does, first with fascination, then with obsession. The video spread across Reddit, Twitter, YouTube, Discord. People dissected it, speculated wildly. Theories exploded: an ancient vault, an alien sensor, a dimensional tier. But then the video began to disappear. Accounts that shared it were banned without explanation. Files became corrupted during upload or download. Servers storing copies suffered mysterious failures. Some claimed their hard drives wiped themselves overnight. Others reported receiving takedown notices from shadowy sources with no names attached. The footage lived on fragmented and altered, re-uploaded under new names, re-edited to evade deletion. But someone clearly didn't want it to exist. And in the chaos, the team who had recorded it fell silent. No new posts, no follow-ups. Their accounts faded, their presence erased. The whole had given up a secret, but at what cost? As the video spread and vanished just as fast, the world changed around the clearing. What had started as a quest for answers had morphed into something darker. Reports trickled in from hikers and campers who'd wandered near the site. The forest, once open and wild, had grown hostile. New fences appeared overnight. Satellite images that once revealed the clearing now blurred the entire region, just as they do with secret military installations. People spoke of black SUVs parked at odd angles, half hidden between trees, trucks with no plates. Men in dark clothing, earpieces coiled at their necks, patrolling silently. No insignia, no badges. Just watchers guarding something unseen. No official statement was made. There were no press conferences, no news reports. The government, if it was, the government didn't acknowledge anything. They didn't have to. Anyone who tried to get close was turned away, not with force, but with silence. A silent stare from a man standing in the shadows. A presence that told you without words that you weren't welcome. On forums, the chatter became frantic. Posts about the video vanished, entire threads wiped clean. Some users claimed they'd been contacted, warned to stop asking questions. Others simply disappeared, accounts inactive, profiles deleted. And the team who had dared to lower the drone, gone. Their websites, social channels, personal blogs scrubbed. Friends and colleagues tried to reach them, but calls went unanswered. Messages bounced. It was as if they'd never existed. But the video, the proof, refused to die. No matter how hard unseen forces tried, fragments survived. Blurry re-uploads, low-res clips, frame grabs annotated by amateur analysts. People pointed to shapes, to pulses of light, to temperature graphs that defied science. And theories multiplied. Some said the hole was a vault, ancient and sealed, never meant to be opened. Others believed it was a sensor alive, aware, watching from beneath the earth. A few whispered of a network of holes connected in ways humans could never map, spanning the globe like the roots of some ancient buried thing. But no one could agree on what was worse, what might be inside, or what might come out. Meanwhile, near Manastash Ridge, the clearing stood silent. The hole waited, and whatever watched from within waited too. While the clearing near Manastash Ridge became untouchable, the obsession didn't die. It simply shifted, digging deeper, figuratively, and maybe literally. On hidden corners of the internet, researchers, code breakers, and amateur cartographers came together. They compared ancient maps with modern satellite images, indigenous legends with geological data. And a chilling pattern began to emerge. What if Mel's Hole wasn't unique? They traced accounts of similar phenomena, places where the ground swallowed sound, where animals fled, where locals spoke in hushed voices of cursed land. From the deserts of Nevada to the ice fields of Siberia, from abandoned mines in South America to deep caves in Africa. What connected them wasn't just mystery, it was geometry. When plotted on a globe, these sites formed lines arcs that intersected at points of ancient power: Giza, Nazca, Angkor. The sites aligned too perfectly to dismiss as chance. The theory spread fast, a global grid of holes, not entrances, but sentinels. Not places to fall into, but places designed to watch. The few remaining analysts with fragments of the drone footage revisited it. They enhanced, dissected, and layered the frames. A new theory surfaced. What if what the drone saw wasn't depth at all? What if the hole wasn't leading down, but sideways? What if the walls, those smooth, glassy surfaces, weren't natural stone, but containment, a vault, a lock? And the pulsing light, a heartbeat, a signal, or worse, an alert. People whispered about dimensional folds, about ancient intelligence buried for millennia, not dead, but dormant. Some claimed the electromagnetic spikes weren't random. They matched readings taken near known anomalies like the Bermuda Triangle. Meanwhile, near Manastash Ridge, sightings continued. Campers who wandered too close reported pressure in their chests, static in their ears and shapes, watching from the tree line. The satellite images remained blurred. The fences stayed up. The black SUVs didn't leave. And the internet. The more people tried to share what they found, the faster it was erased. Videos corrupted, accounts banned, threads deleted mid-conversation, as if the very story was being devoured the way the hole had devoured Mel's fishing line. But the questions wouldn't die. They echoed louder than ever. What if the hole was never about depth? What if it was about what it holds back? In the end, Mel's hole didn't fade into obscurity. It didn't slip quietly into the annals of forgotten mysteries. Instead, it became something else, a shadow that hovered over every unanswered question, every lost piece of footage, every vanishing post and silenced voice. Because the hole had changed, not physically, not in any way you could measure with tools or charts, but in meaning. The final clue came not from a scientist or a researcher, but from an old archivist of Coast to Coast AM, a man who had kept copies of every broadcast, every call, including Mel's. On a private server, he shared a cleaned, enhanced version of Mel's last words. And what those words hinted at made the blood of even hardened skeptics run cold. Mel had spoken just before the line went dead of a third hole, one hidden not in Washington or Nevada, but somewhere even further from prying eyes. A place unnamed, perhaps not even on maps. He said this last hole wasn't a pit at all. It was a door. A door built not to be opened, but to stay sealed. A door that wasn't just about what humans might find, but about what might find us. That was the last anyone heard. The archivist's account vanished a week later. His server went offline. His posts were scrubbed from forums. The final fragments of the drone video flickered out across the web, corrupted beyond recognition. Servers failed, drives crashed, channels disappeared without strikes or notices. The area near Manastash Ridge still fenced off, still guarded, no new footage, no new expeditions, just silence. And perhaps that was the real secret. Not what was inside the hole, but what the hole meant. Because what if Mel's hole wasn't about depth? What if it wasn't about a pit or a shaft or a vault? What if it was never about how deep it went, but about how deep they could reach out? What if the hole wasn't just watching? What if it was waiting? And as the last pieces of the story slipped from the internet, as if swallowed by the same silence that lived inside that pit, one final question remained. What if the hole never wanted to be found?